merokok.
Kami sokong GED.
Good evening, I'm Soraya Mia. You're tuning into AWANI tonight. Anwar says Pakatan ready to cooperate with Muda in an electoral pact. And we take a closer look at Muda. Will the young party make its mark in GE15? That's coming up. Pakatan Harapan has decided to cooperate with the Malaysia United Democratic Alliance Muda for the 15th general election. PH Chairman Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the discussions with both parties were positive, with leaders agreeing to working together for GE15. The partnership will be an electoral pact for now. This means that PH and Muda should not clash in any seats for GE15. Muda has already announced that it wanted to contest in seats formerly won by Bersatu in the general elections.
Itu terserah berapa cepat dengan jalankan. Tadi keputusan ada, mana keputusannya boleh teruskan.
Electoral pack ataupun sebagai member official.
Setakat ni electoral pack, sebab kalau member official tu kena ROS. Jadi saya tidak pakai ROS akan approve apa-apa sekarang.
Fairly new to the political scene, it remains to be seen if Parti Muda will be able to mobilize the youth and attain parliamentary seats in the next elections. Professor James Chin of University of Tasmania speaks on the role the party plays.
The Muda's case is interesting because we have very limited political data on Muda. The only political data we have on Muda is really the Johor elections. The reason why Muda is interesting is because you're talking about a completely new block of voters, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and you don't know what these people are like. All you know is that because of automatic registrations, millions of them are on the electoral roll. And the reason why there's a big question mark about them is because you don't even know whether they're going to come out and vote. But if they do come out as a big block and vote, I think they will play a very important role, especially in some rural Malay seats where they account for quite a significant number.
The dissolution of the Perak State Legislative Assembly has yet to be decided. Menteri Besar Datuk Sarani Mohamad said this after he granted an audience with the Sultan of Perak, Sultan Nazrin Shah, earlier today. He confirmed that the Sultan will announce his decision on the matter later. The Perak UMNO chief added that the state government and state legislative assembly would continue to function as usual. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob urged various state governments, except in Sabah, Sarawak, Johor and Malacca, to dissolve their respective assemblies to coincide their state elections with the federal parliamentary election. Apart from Perak, Barisan Nasional-led Pahang and Perlis are expected to announce the dissolution of their respective assemblies in the next few days. Meanwhile, PAS said an announcement on whether Terengganu, Kelantan and Kedah will dissolve their legislative assemblies is likely to be made tomorrow. Similarly, Pakatan Harapan said it will make a decision on dissolving the state assemblies held by the coalition in the next 24 to 48 hours. Meanwhile, PKR will finalize its list of candidates before the Election Commission meets next Thursday to set the date of GE15. Deputy President Rafizi Ramli said the party's new approach to candidate vetting will be more transparent, objective and democratic in response to voters' demand for candidates of higher caliber.
Rafizi said among the criteria for PKR candidates include record of service in party, strength of machinery and on-ground performance, skills and qualifications, as well as social media presence. Rafizi recently announced a new website allowing Malaysians to nominate themselves as a PKR candidate for GE15. Names of shortlisted candidates will be submitted to party president Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim for finalization through a proper evaluation process. According to Rafizi, 1,673 individuals had already nominated themselves as PKR candidates as of 10 a.m. today.
On Consider This tonight, we speak to our guests about the strategy needed for Pakatan Harapan to inspire and energize voters to turn out in GE15. Klang MP Charles Santiago has filed an injunction to defer the 15th general election due to the monsoon season. The lawmaker named Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, the government and the Election Commission as defendants.
In the originating summons, Santiago said the dissolution of Parliament was not made on the advice of the Cabinet and therefore was null and void. He claimed it was clear from Ismail's speech on Monday that the dissolution was a personal request. Hence, the move was not in accordance with Article 41 and 1A of the Federal Constitution. Santiago is also seeking for the court to issue an order to restrain the Election Commission from taking steps to conduct GE15. With the polls due to be held during the flooding season, he said it is likely that voters, including those in his constituency, would be forced to risk their lives to exercise their right to vote. A hearing has been fixed before the Kuala Lumpur High Court on October 20th.
Meanwhile, Perikatan Nasional Secretary General Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin has defended the coalition's move to send a letter to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong rejecting the dissolution of Parliament. The Home Minister claimed that it was normal for party members to send letters to anyone in show of support to their party.
Keputusan parti tidak mahu mengadakan pilihan raya. Yang Mak Berhormat Perdana Menteri pun selalu mengatakan he's a party man. I respect cara dia menjawab. As a party man, he has to listen to the party, to his president. Saya pun as a party man, I have to listen to party punya kehendak.
On Tuesday, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob had put the blame on the 12 PN ministers in his cabinet for undermining the current government, forcing him to call for the dissolution of Parliament. PN Chairman Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said Ismail Sabri was irresponsible for blaming him and the ministers, and that the coalition was merely voicing the concerns of the Rakyat to hold off elections due to flood season. Separately, Hamzah said simulations for potential floods during GE15 have been conducted to prepare authorities and relevant agencies. He said a total of 21,018 policemen and 4,367 RELA personnel were assigned as part of flood preparations. The simulations had factored in plans in the case that polling stations were flooded, with notable evacuation points. The Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency has also been tasked to provide assistance to islands.
The campaigning and polling day of GE15 will likely happen amid heavy rainfall during the northeast monsoon season. Trisha Yo of Ideas discusses campaign strategies even as voters are weighed down by flooding concerns.
Like it or not, Malaysian politics is still quite traditional. We like our, house-to-house visits, door-to-door ceramah, buying of hampers and being able to show that personal human touch that's very Malaysian, or in Southeast Asia. It's not uncommon to have that kind of personal touch politics. So I think if anything, a short campaign period would limit the ability of parties, candidates to do that. But I think, like many other countries that actually held their elections over the last few years during the pandemic, this gives them an opportunity to be creative and they're forced into making use of internet and social media platforms in creative ways. Of course, the problem here is that there's only so much attention that can be given at any one point in time. Even you as a social media user, you don't have that much time or all the 24 hours in the world to read through all the campaign messages of everyone, unless that's your job to do. So I think that public attention will be highly sought after, but it will be a highly competitive space. We will probably, over the next couple of weeks, a month, will be inundated with all sorts of campaign messages, videos, short TikToks. I think probably this, if the last election was the WhatsApp election, I foresee that especially the younger, more savvy politicians will make this into a TikTok election.
We'll go for a short break. We'll be right back.
Alami kehebatan dunia Unify TV dengan lebih 70 saluran premium dan 16 aplikasi penstreaman. Tonton dan nikmati rancangan kanak-kanak, liputan sukan, drama Korea dan filem terkini bila-bila masa di mana jua. Dapatkan Unify hari ini.
Welcome back. A court in Myanmar has sentenced Aung San Suu Kyi to 3 additional years in jail for corruption, extending her total prison term to 26 years. The verdict is the latest in a string of punishments meted out against the 77-year-old former leader who was forced from power in a military coup early last year.
The latest charges were related to allegations Suu Kyi accepted bribes from a businessman. She has denied any wrongdoing. The Nobel laureate is facing charges for at least 18 offences ranging from graft to election violations, carrying combined maximum terms of nearly 190 years. Her lawyers have said the series of crimes levelled against her are politically motivated, aimed at blocking her from ever getting involved in politics again. Suu Kyi is currently being held in solitary confinement at a prison in the capital Naypyidaw, and her trials have been conducted in closed courts.
In other news, hundreds of mourners and survivors gathered in the island of Bali to commemorate the 20th anniversary of a twin bombing that killed 202 people. Local group Jama'ah Islamiyah, which was linked to Al-Qaeda, was blamed for the bombings on October 12, 2002, which took place at 2 popular night spots in Kuta. The bombing was the deadliest terrorist attack in Southeast Asia. Most of the victims were foreign holidaymakers from more than 20 countries, but Australia suffered the biggest loss with 88 dead, followed by 38 Indonesian citizens and more than 20 people from the UK. Services were held simultaneously in several places in Australia and at Bali's Australian consulate in the city of Denpasar, where survivors of the terrorist attack and relatives of the deceased were among the 200 in attendance to pay tribute. Over in Sydney, a memorial service was held where 88 doves were released, one for each Australian killed in the bombing. All the leading perpetrators of the Bali attacks were either executed, killed by police, or jailed. The Indonesian government is considering an early release for bomb maker Umar Patek. He has only served half of his 20-year sentence. However, Jakarta has held off freeing him after angering Australia and victims' relatives. Some 477 pilot whales have died after stranding themselves on 2 remote beaches in New Zealand over recent days. Officials said none of the stranded whales could be refloated, and all either died naturally or were euthanized. The whales breached themselves on the Chatham Islands, which are home to about 600 people and located about 800 kilometers east of New Zealand's main islands. Because of the isolation of the islands and an active shark population, it is considered too dangerous to actively refloat stranded whales. Unless they are naturally refloated by the tides, all of them will die. The reasons behind mass pilot whale strandings are not clear. The deaths come 2 weeks after about 200 pilot whales died in Australia after stranding themselves on a remote Tasmanian beach. According to New Zealand's Conservation Department, the Chatham Islands are among the top 3 places for strandings. In 1918, an estimated 1,000 pilot whales died after getting stranded there. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Saramia, and we'll see you again